Everyone in the big living room went quiet. The billionaire, Chief Adewale Balogun, stood still like a statue. His phone had just slipped from his hand and landed softly on the shining floor. His eyes were wide, staring at the young maid standing near the door. "You," he whispered. The girl held the tray tightly, but her hands were shaking. The glass of juice almost fell. Her name in the house was Amina, the quiet maid who always kept her head down. But now, everything had changed. One of the men in suits picked up the phone and looked at the screen again. Then he looked at her. "Sir, the documents are correct," he said slowly. "Her full name is Amina Zainab Danjuma." The room gasped. Chief Adewale took a slow step forward. "That name, it cannot be." But it was. The maid he had hired just 2 months ago was not just any girl. She was the lost daughter of Alhaji Danjuma, one of the richest and most powerful men in the whole country. And no one knew how she ended up here, working as a maid. Amina slowly raised her head. For the first time, she looked straight into Chief Adewale's eyes. There was no fear in her face now. Only something deeper. Something strong. Something that made the whole room feel different. And just as she opened her mouth to speak, "We must go back to where it all began." 2 months earlier, in a busy town called Anapaja in Lagos, life moved fast. Cars honked. Traders shouted. Children laughed as they ran through the narrow streets. And among them was a girl walking quietly with a small bag. Her name was Amina. She wore simple clothes, and her slippers were worn out. No one looking at her would think she came from a rich home. She walked like someone who had learned to hide. Amina stopped in front of a large gate. The house behind it was beautiful. Tall walls, shining windows, and guards at the entrance. This was the home of Chief Adewale Balogun, a billionaire businessman known across the country. Amina took a deep breath. "I can do this," she whispered to herself. She walked up to the gate. "I'm here for the maid job," she told the guard. The guard looked at her from head to toe. "You?" he asked. Amina nodded. After a few minutes, she was allowed inside. The house was bigger than anything Amina had ever lived in, or at least, bigger than anything she had lived in recently. Everything was neat. Everything was quiet. A woman named Madam Bose, the housekeeper, showed her around. "You will wake up early," Madam Bose said. "Clean, cook, and do as you are told. No trouble. No questions." Amina nodded again. "I understand." From that day, Amina became part of the house. She worked hard. She spoke little. She never complained. Other workers in the house noticed her quickly. "She's too quiet," one of them said. "And too careful," another added. "Like she's hiding something." But Amina just smiled softly and kept working. Chief Adewale himself did not notice her at first. He was always busy, meetings, calls, business deals. He only cared that his house ran smoothly. But one evening, something changed. He came home late, tired and angry. A big deal had failed, and he was not in a good mood. As he entered the dining room, he saw Amina setting the table. She moved with calm and care, placing each plate perfectly. For a moment, he just watched. There was something different about her. "You," he said suddenly. Amina stopped and turned. "Yes, sir." "What is your name?" "Amina, sir." He looked at her closely. There was something in her eyes. Something he could not understand. He said, then walked away. But from that day, he began to notice her more. Days turned into weeks. Amina became known as the best worker in the house. She was kind to everyone, even the ones who were not kind to her. Once, when a younger maid broke a plate and started crying, Amina quietly helped her clean it up and took the blame. Another time, she gave her own food to the security guard who had not eaten all day. "Why do you do all this?" Madame Bose asked her one night. Amina smiled. "Because it is the right thing to do." But sometimes, late at night, when everyone was asleep, Amina would sit by the window and look at the sky. Her eyes would fill with tears. She would hold a small necklace in her hand, a gold chain with a tiny pendant. "Soon," she would whisper. "Very soon." One afternoon, something unexpected happened. A group of important visitors came to the house. Big men in suits. Expensive cars. Serious faces. Chief Adewale was hosting a meeting. Amina was asked to serve drinks. As she entered the living room with the tray, one of the men suddenly froze. He stared at her. Then he stood up slowly. "Wait," he said. The room became quiet. He walked closer to Amina, his eyes wide. "Where did you get that necklace?" he asked. Amina's hand moved quickly to cover it. "It's mine," she said softly. The man shook his head. "No, that necklace belongs to the Danjuma family." The room erupted in whispers. Chief Adewale stood up. "What is going on here?" he demanded. The man pulled out his phone and showed him something. A picture. A younger Amina, dressed in fine clothes, standing beside a tall, smiling man. Alhaji Danjuma. Chief Adewale's face changed. Slowly, he turned to the girl standing in his house, the girl he had hired as a maid. And that is when the truth began to unfold. But before Amina could explain everything, Madame Bose rushed into the room, her face full of fear. "Sir," she cried. "There are people at the gate, powerful people, and they are asking for the girl." The air in the room grew heavy. Chief Adewale looked back at Amina. And for the first time, he realized. This was not just a simple story. This was something much bigger. And just as the gate outside began to open, Amina took a step forward and said, "Sir, I think it is time you know the truth." The large gate opened slowly. Everyone inside the house could feel the tension in the air. Even the birds in the compound seemed to stop singing. Chief Adewale stood still, his eyes moving from Amina to the entrance of the house. "Let them in," he said at last. The guard stepped aside. 3 black cars drove into the compound. They were long and shiny, the kind only very important people used. When the cars stopped, the doors opened at the same time. Men in dark suits stepped out first. They looked serious and strong. Then, from the middle car, an older man came out. He walked slowly, but with power. Everyone knew him. Alhaji Musa Danjuma. One of the richest men in the country. A man whose name opened doors everywhere. And now, he was standing in Chief Adewale's compound. Inside the house, Amina's heart beat fast. But her face stayed calm. "It's him," one of the workers whispered. Chief Adewale quickly adjusted his clothes and walked toward the door. "Alhaji Danjuma," he said, forcing a polite smile. "This is a surprise." Alhaji Danjuma did not smile. "I believe you have someone who belongs to me," he said. His voice was not loud, but it was strong. Chief Adewale stepped aside. "Please, come in." When Alhaji Danjuma entered the living room, his eyes searched quickly. Then he saw her. Amina. The name came out softly, like a breath he had been holding for a long time. For a moment, everything else disappeared. Amina looked at him. Her eyes filled with tears, but she did not run to him. She just stood there. "Father," she said quietly. Some of the people in the room gasped again. It was true. She was really his daughter. Alhaji Danjuma took a step forward. "My child," he said. "We have been looking for you everywhere." Amina lowered her eyes. "I know," she replied. "Then why?" he asked. "Why did you run away?" Why did you hide like this? Working as a maid. His voice broke slightly on the last word. The room was silent. All eyes were on Amina. She took a deep breath. I did not run away, she said slowly. I left. That confused everyone. Even Chief Adewale frowned. What do you mean? He asked. Amina looked around the room. At the workers. At the rich men. At Chief Adewale. Then she spoke. I needed to see the world, not as the daughter of a rich man, but as a normal person. The room became even quieter. I needed to know how people really live, she continued. How they are treated. What they go through every day. Alhaji Danjuma shook his head. You could have done that safely, he said. Not like this. Not disappearing without a word. Amina's voice became stronger. If I told you, Father, would you have allowed me? He said nothing. That was the answer. Chief Adewale crossed his arms. So you came into my house, hiding your identity, he asked. Amina nodded. Yes, sir. And why my house? She looked at him directly. Because I heard stories about you. That caught his attention. What kind of stories? Amina hesitated for a moment. Then she spoke the truth. They said you were a great businessman, but not always a kind man. The room shifted uncomfortably. Some workers looked down. Chief Adewale's face hardened. And what have you found? He asked coldly. Amina did not look away. I found both, she said. There was silence again. Then she added softly, but people can change. Those words stayed in the air. For the first time in a long time, Chief Adewale did not know what to say. He remembered the times he shouted at his workers. The times he ignored their problems. The times he only cared about money and success. And then he thought about Amina. How she worked without complaint. How she helped others. How she brought a quiet peace into the house. He turned away for a moment. Alhaji Danjuma stepped forward again. This is over, he said firmly. You are coming home with me. Amina's heart tightened. She had known this moment would come. But it was not so simple. Father, she began. No, he said. You have seen enough. This life is not for you. Amina looked around the room again. At Madame Bose. At the guards. At the young maid she once helped. These people had become part of her journey. I am not done yet, she said quietly. Her father's eyes widened. What do you mean? I came here for a reason, Amina said. And I have not finished what I started. Chief Adewale looked back at her. What is it you started? He asked. Amina hesitated. This was the moment. The moment she had been preparing for. She held her necklace tightly. Then she spoke. I wanted to understand how people are treated, so I can change it. The words hit everyone differently. Some felt inspired. Some felt confused. But Chief Adewale felt something else. A challenge. You think you can change things? He asked. Amina nodded. Yes. He let out a small laugh. This world is not that simple. Maybe not, she said. But someone has to try. There was a long pause. Then, something unexpected happened. Chief Adewale walked closer to her. Stay, he said. Everyone looked at him in shock. Sir. Madame Bose whispered. You heard me, he said. Then he looked at Alhaji Danjuma. Let her stay. For now. Alhaji Danjuma frowned. This is my daughter. And she is also her own person, Chief Adewale replied. The two men stared at each other. Power met power. Silence filled the room. Then Amina spoke again. Father, please. Her voice was soft, but full of meaning. After a long moment, Alhaji Danjuma sighed. You have always been stubborn, he said. A small smile touched Amina's lips. You gave that to me. Finally, he nodded. One more chance, he said. But I will be watching. Amina bowed her head. Thank you, father. The visitors began to leave. The big cars drove out again. But the house was no longer the same. Nothing was the same. Amina was no longer just a maid. She was something more. Something important. That night, Chief Adewale sat alone in his study. He could not stop thinking. About Amina. About her words. About himself. Then he picked up his phone and called someone. I want a full report, he said. Everything about how my workers are treated. He paused. And prepare for changes. Outside, under the quiet night sky, Amina stood by the window again. But this time, she was not alone. Madame Bo stood beside her. You are a very brave girl, she said. Amina smiled softly. I am just getting started. But far away, in another part of the city, a man sat in a dark office. He looked at a picture of Amina on his screen. So, she has revealed herself, he said slowly. A dangerous smile appeared on his face. This just became interesting. Back at the house, Amina suddenly felt a strange chill. Like something unseen had just begun. She held her necklace tightly again. And whispered. What comes next? The next morning felt different. The house was still the same, the tall walls, the clean floors, the quiet halls, but something had changed inside it. People moved more carefully. They spoke more softly. And everywhere Amina went, eyes followed her. Not as a maid anymore. But as someone important. Amina woke up early, just like always. She tied her scarf, picked up her cleaning tools, and stepped out of her room. But before she could start her walk, Madame Bo stopped her. You don't have to do this anymore, she said gently. Amina smiled. I know, she replied. But I want to. Madame Bose looked at her for a moment, then nodded. You are not like other rich children. Amina laughed softly. I am not trying to be. Later that day, Chief Adewale called a meeting. All the workers gathered in the compound. Some were nervous. Some were confused. Amina stood quietly at the back. Chief Adewale stepped forward. He looked serious, but not angry. I have not been fair, he said. Everyone looked at each other in surprise. I have built a big house, he continued. I have made a lot of money. But I forgot something important. He paused. The people who helped me build it. The workers listened closely. From today, he said, things will change. Mamas filled the air. Better pay, he said. Better rest. Respect for everyone. A small smile appeared on Amina's face. But not everyone was happy. Behind the crowd, a man stood quietly. His name was Connor. He was one of Chief Adewale's business managers. He had worked with him for many years. And he did not like change. This girl, he muttered under his breath. She is causing too much trouble. Connor was used to things being his way. Quiet workers. No questions. No problems. But now, everything was shifting. And he didn't trust it. Later that afternoon, Connor sat in his office, thinking. Then he picked up his phone. I think we need to move faster, he said to someone on the other end. He listened for a moment. Yes, he added. She is still there. And now she has more power. He paused. No mistakes this time. Then he hung up. Back in the main house, Amina was helping in the kitchen when the young maid she once protected ran to her. Amina, she said. Something is wrong. Amina turned quickly. What is it? The guard at the back gate, he said some people are asking questions about you. Amina's heart skipped. What kind of questions? They didn't say much, the girl replied. But they didn't look like normal visitors. Amina's mind raced. She remembered the strange feeling from the night before. Something was coming. She could feel it. That evening, Chief Adewale called Amina to his study. She entered quietly. You sent for me, sir? He nodded. Then he gestured for her to sit. I have been thinking, he said. About what? Amina asked. About you, he replied. Amina waited. You came into my house as a maid, he continued. But you have done something no one else has done. Amina tilted her head slightly. You made me look at myself. There was silence. Then he added, that is not easy. Amina smiled softly. Sometimes, the truth is not easy. He nodded. Yes. Then his face became serious again. But I am worried, he said. Amina's smile faded. Why? I have made many enemies in my life, Chief Adewale explained. People who don't like me. People who don't like change. Amina listened carefully. And now, he added, you are part of this. Amina took a deep breath. I understand. Do you? He asked. Yes, she said. Because I also have enemies. That surprised him. You? Amina nodded slowly. My father's world is not simple either. At that moment, a loud noise came from outside. Bang! Both of them stood up quickly. Another noise followed. Voices. Shouting. What is happening? Chief Adewale said. They rushed outside. The compound was no longer calm. Guards were running. Workers were panicking. At the gate, there was confusion. A black van was parked outside. And men were trying to force their way in. Stop them, one guard shouted. But the men were strong. And prepared. Amina's heart pounded. This is because of me, she whispered. Chief Adewale shook his head. No. This is bigger than you. Suddenly, one of the men broke through the gate. He stepped inside, looking straight at Amina. There she is, he said. Time seemed to slow down. The man began to walk toward her. But before he could get close, another set of cars rushed into the compound. Fast. Powerful. Familiar. The cars stopped suddenly. Doors opened. And more men stepped out. But these men were different. They wore the symbol of Alhaji Danjuma. Amina's father had come prepared. The two groups faced each other. Tension filled the air. No one moved. No one spoke. Then, slowly, one man stepped forward from the attackers. He smiled. You think this is over, he said. His eyes moved to Amina. This is only the beginning. Amina stood tall. Even though her heart was beating fast. Even though danger was right in front of her. She did not step back. Chief Adewale stood beside her. For the first time, not as a boss and a maid. But as two people standing for something right. The wind blew softly through the compound. The sky above was calm. But below, everything was changing. And as Amina held her necklace tightly, she realized. Her journey was not just about learning anymore. It was about fighting for what she had learned. The man smiled again. Let's see how strong you really are, he said. And just like that, a new chapter of her life began.